All right, let's go to this main story here. We'll deal with Flint, Michigan, in the second hour. So last year, it was announced. The topic came up about a woman being on the $10 bill, possibly the $20 bill. Okay. And some different names were thrown out. Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, some other names. Okay. One name was Wilma Mankiller. Wilma Mankiller, who was the first female chief of the Cherokee Nation. Okay. Another name was former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. And this was spearheaded by W20, Women on 20s, also known as W20, Women on 20s, and which is a organization, grassroots organization committed to the realization of female representation on the nation's currency. Okay. So there was an article, this was a big story today, so there were a few articles. There was an article from MSNBC.com today, Harriet Tubman to replace former President Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. And this article is written by Halima Abdullah and Tom Costello. But it says Treasury Secretary Jack Lew, L-E-W, announced Wednesday that abolitionist Harriet Tubman will replace former President Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. Okay. Now, you keep in mind, Andrew Jackson was a former slave owner. Okay. We're going to get into that here. Now, the long-awaited decision keeps Alexander Hamilton, one of the U.S. founding fathers, on the front of the $10 bill. Those suffragists who fought to give women the right to vote will be added to the back of the $10 bill, the Treasury Department confirmed. Okay, quote, I'm very excited by it, and I think it's much bigger than just honoring one woman, end quote, Treasury Secretary Jack Lew told NBC. He went on to say, this is about saying that our money is going to tell a much bigger part of our story. Okay. This is saying that our money is going to tell a much bigger part of our story. Now, Jack Lew, Treasury Secretary, said the back of the $10 bill will tell the story of women's suffrage more generally, with the movement's leaders demonstrating on the steps of the Treasury building. Okay. And that was the suffrage movement. That was the movement of basically white women to get the right to vote. Now, the back of the $5 bill would depict famous events from the Lincoln Memorial, such as the historic moment when First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt invited Marian Anderson to sing on the monument steps because the concert halls in Washington, D.C. were segregated. Okay, I'm not sure why that's such a big moment. I mean, to commemorate on the back of the $5 bill. Now, what I think should be on the back of the $5 bill is capturing that moment when Europeans first came to this land and they saw African people here. I think that should be on the back of the $5 bill. All right. Now, also, the concert hall. Now, also, Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech delivered from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial would be depicted. Now, when they show Dr. King on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, they should quote Dr. King from the "I Have a Dream" speech, not saying "I have a dream." They should quote him saying the Negro has been given a check mark insufficient funds, because he said that in the speech. Also, the speech was 17 minutes. He said that he was dealing with economics in the speech. They should quote that on the back of the $5 bill. All right. Now, the bills will be unveiled in 2020, the year 2020, the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. Now, last year, the U.S. Treasury surprised advocates who were pressing to get a woman on the $20 bill by announcing a woman would go on the redesigned $10 bill instead. OK, that plan met with criticism by those who pushed for Jackson to be replaced instead. All right. Now, Treasury Secretary Jack Lew said, we did this the old fashioned way. We said we were going to listen to the American people, and we did. We heard a lot of commentary that a woman should be on the $20 bill, not the $10 bill. Okay. Now, he went on to say there was a sense that is the bill that people use the most. If we're really going to put a woman on a bill that people see as being an important statement, it should be the $20 bill. So they're saying that the $20 bill is more important than the $10 bill. $20 bill is used more than the $10 bill. So if we really want to make a statement, we're going to put the first woman on on a bill, put her on the $20 bill. Now, Hamilton, who has experienced a resurgence in popularity thanks to a hit Broadway production called Hamilton, helped create the Treasury. Okay, Alexander Hamilton. Now, fans have been captivated with his life story. Okay. Now, Carrie Winter, director of the Gender Institute at the University of Buffalo, said Hamilton's surge in popularity has been building over time. It didn't just happen now with the Broadway show. Over the last few years, there have been major biographies written about him, so this has been happening for a few years now. Hamilton is a romantic figure in so many ways. He is one of our most interesting founders. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. Give us a call, 888-669-2281, 888-669-2281. What do you think about Harriet Tubman being on the $20 bill? You listen to the Michael Imhotep Show right here on the Empowerment Radio Network with Knowledge is Power. The film Resurrecting Black Wall Street is available right now at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Resurrecting Black Wall Street, the blueprint, is a new documentary released in March of 2016. It's from director Dorian Chandler and Dr. Boyce Watkins and Your Black World Films, and features Dr. Boyce Watkins, Damon Dash, Michael Imhotep, Cleo Monago, and a number of other historians and activists and scholars. Now, before Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered by the government, he had begun to explore the deep impact that economic inequality had on his ability to affect social change. Dr. King found that if we do not address financial wrongs of the past, we will not be able to fulfill the dream that many of us share today. Resurrecting Black Wall Street, the blueprint, examines Little Africa of Tulsa, Oklahoma, or the Greenwood District of Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921 as a shining example of what black people can accomplish when we pursue our economic goals as a collective. The documentary features leading financial scholars, historians, and activists. The film allows us to study the body of knowledge left behind by our ancestors in order to move on to a more empowered future. Principles of cooperative economics, wealth building, and black business development are addressed, along with the truth about what happened to the people who gave their wealth, who had their wealth stolen and their story buried for over 100 years. For each copy of Resurrecting Black Wall Street that you purchase, you get one free DVD presentation from Michael Imhotep. It's available right now at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Welcome back to the Michael Imhotep Show right here on the Empowerment Radio Network, where knowledge is power. All right, the calling number is 888-669-2281. 888-669-2281 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, let's go back to this topic here. We were talking about, it was announced today that Harriet Tubman is going to replace President Andrew Jackson on the front of the $20 bill. And I asked the question, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? This is a good thing that she's going to be on the $20 bill. All right. And because you have some people who do not think it is a good thing. Okay. So we're going to we'll talk about that also. All right. Now let's go back to this article. This is from MSNBC.com. MSNBC.com from today. And the name of this article: Harriet Tubman to replace former President Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill. All right, so they were talking about the Broadway show Hamilton and how it has is one of the things that has increased the popularity of Alexander Hamilton. Okay, one of the founding fathers, so-called founding fathers. And the article goes on to say Hamilton's surge in popularity has been building over time. It didn't just happen now with the Broadway show, said Carrie Winter, who's the director of the Gender Institute at the University at Buffalo. Over the last few years, there have been major biographies written about Alexander Hamilton. So this has been happening for a few years now. Hamilton is a romantic figure in so many ways. He is one of our interesting founders. Okay. Now, known as Moses to her people, Harriet Tubman is famous for helping lead slaves to freedom on the Underground Railroad. She also helped nurse ill Union soldiers or sick Union soldiers because she served in the Civil War. She was a spy in the Civil War and a nurse. Okay, she fought on the side of the Union. She served on the side of the Union. She helped fight for the end of slavery and was a suffragist who advocated for women to have the right to vote. Now, on Capitol Hill, lawmakers lauded the choice. Representative Louise V. Gutierrez, a Democrat from Illinois, who last year introduced legislation to push the Treasury to put a woman on the $20 bill, said in a statement that the move was a powerful symbol. He went on to say, it is crazy that women have been mostly absent from our money until now, with only a few exceptions. Now, women and men are equal partners in our nation's success, and our money should reflect that. Sure, it is only symbolic, but U.S. money is just about as powerful a symbol as there is in this world. Okay, and Senator Jean Shaheen, Democrat from New Hampshire, was similarly excited. She tweeted, "If this is true, great news. Tubman on $20 bill is the right call. The redesign needs to happen as soon as possible. Women have waited long enough." Okay, so that was today. All right, you have an article from theroot.com from the day as well. Harriet Tubman to be new face of $20 bill, MLK and Marian Anderson to be honored on back of new $5 bill. Okay, they talk about this as well. Now, last year, April 13th of last year, okay, Kirsten West Savali wrote an article for theroot.com. She's a staff writer for theroot.com. You know, we share some of our articles here. I've shared a lot of her articles over the past few years. But she wrote this article almost a year ago exactly. It's called "Why We Should Keep Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks Off the $20 Bill." Why we should keep Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks off the $20 bill. With the state of black women in this country, putting one of these icons on U.S. currency is not progress. It's hush money. Harriet Tubman or Rosa Parks may be the new face featured on the U.S. $20 bill. That is, if Women on 20s, W2O, Women on 20s, a grassroots organization committed to the realization of female representation on the nation's currency, has anything to say about it. After a robust voting process spearheaded by W20, the civil rights icons, along with former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and Wilma Mankiller, the first female chief of the Cherokee Nation, were selected from a multi-generational pool of accomplished women spanning diverse industries. Okay. Now on W20's website, Women on 20s, on their website, it says, "We believe this simple, symbolic, and long overdue change could be an important stepping stone for other initiatives promoting gender equality. Our money does say something about us, about what we value. Our money does say something about us, about what we value." Okay. Yes, it absolutely does, and that quote unquote something is not black women. Okay. She's saying it does say something about what we value and we don't value black women. Yes, it absolutely does, and that something is not black women. No amount of subversive symbolism changes that fact. This country was founded on the idea that all white men are created equal and no one else. As such, Andrew Jackson, a slave owner, he was the 7th president of the United States, and he's the current face of the $20 bill, represents exactly the values and ethics which the country was founded. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. The pig in this case being a capitalist structure hell-bent on the expansion, maintenance, and protection of white supremacy at any cost. Donald Trump is an example of that. Important to note, it was President Andrew Jackson that signed the Indian Removal Act, the Indian Removal Act of 1830, that pushed the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, Cherokee, and Seminole Indians off of their land in southeastern United States, Atlanta and Alabama and North Carolina, things like this, off their land and pushed them out west. They walked over 1,000 miles of what was known as the Trail of Tears, and they took their black slaves with them, because all 5 civilized tribes of Native Americans owned black slaves also. All right, so specifically, there is something both distasteful and ironic about putting a black woman's face on the most frequently counterfeited and most commonly traded dollar bill in this country. Haven't we been commodified and trafficked enough? Referring to African American women, haven't African American women been commodified and trafficked enough? Slapping a black female face, one of our radical icons, on a $20 bill as if it's some attainment of the American dream would be adding insult to injury. When nearly half of all single African American women have zero or negative wealth, and their median wealth is $100. Median is the point that where 50% of the population is below that point and 50% of the population is above that point. So the median net wealth of African American women is $100, compared to the median net worth, median net worth of white women is just a little over $41,000 for a single white American woman. Okay, that's an insult. When African American women are the fuel for the prison industrial complex, with incarceration rates increasing 800% since 1986, and black girls being the fastest growing population of a corrupt juvenile criminal system, it is an insult. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Give us a call, 888-669-2281. 888-669-2281 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. You listen to the Michael Imhotep Show right here on the Empowerment Radio Network, where knowledge is power. Welcome back to the Michael Imhotep Show. All right, that's the trailer for Elementary Genocide 2. Elementary Genocide 2. It's from award-winning director Raheem Shabazz. It's available right now at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have Elementary Genocide 1 and 2 available at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. For each copy of Elementary Genocide 2 that you purchase, you get one free DVD presentation for Michael Imhotep. Okay, and Elementary Genocide deals with the school to prison pipeline and deals with taking control of our educational system as well. So check that out, and look out for Elementary Genocide 3 late this year. And I'm in Elementary Genocide 3, Academic Holocaust, along with Professor James Small and Professor Kaba Hiawatha Kamene. All right, welcome back to the Michael Imhotep Show right here on the Empowerment Radio Network, where knowledge is power. If you have a question or comment, give us a call, 888-669-2281. 888-669-2281 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Follow us on our Facebook page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Follow us on our Twitter page, The AHN Show, The AHN Show on Twitter as well, okay, or Michael Imhotep on Twitter. All right, let's go back to this article. Now, we're talking about Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? It was announced today by Treasury Secretary Jack Lew that Harriet Tubman is going to be the new face of the $20 bill. She will replace Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson is going to move to the back of the $20 bill. She's going to be on the front of the $20 bill. Now, no, this is nothing against Harriet Tubman. I don't want you to take this the wrong way. But I'm sharing with you an article that Kirsten West Savali wrote last year, April 13, 2015, for TheRoot.com, entitled "Why We Should Keep Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks Off the $20 Bill. With the state of black women in this country, putting one of these icons on U.S. currency is not progress, it's hush money." Okay, now let's go back to this article. So, in the article, she was saying, okay, let's be clear. Not all, let's see. Okay, so not only did African American women face discrimination within the women's suffrage movement, but we most certainly did not attain the right to vote 95 years ago. After decades of literacy tests and other disenfranchisement tactics, it was the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that finally allowed African American women to vote somewhat freely. The same Voting Rights Act that in 2014 was gutted by the U.S. Supreme Court. So no, 2020 isn't a landmark year for African American women, and cosmetic diversity is nothing but a placebo in the service of white liberal guilt. Okay, let me back up here. Let's go back to this. Okay, now she said, slapping a black female face, one of our radical icons, on a $20 bill as if it's some attainment of the American dream would be adding insult to injury. When nearly half of all single African American women have a zero or negative net worth, and their median net worth is $100, compared with just over $41,000 for single white women, it is an insult. When African American women are the fuel for the prison industrial complex, with incarceration rates increasing 800% since 1986, and African American girls being the fastest growing population of a corrupt juvenile criminal justice system, it is an insult. When African American women earn on average 64 cents for every dollar paid to white non-Hispanic men, compared with the 78 cents that white women earned for every dollar paid to white non-Hispanic men, it is an insult. And frankly, putting a white woman's face on a bill would be akin to Hillary Clinton becoming the president of the United States. A woman's face on the same old racist, patriarchal political system that continues in both insidious and blatant ways to disenfranchise women and people of color. That's not progress. It's hush money. Women on 20s has stated that its goal is to petition the White House to make the change by 2020, the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which purportedly gave all American women the right to vote. Let's be clear. Not all women are white. Not only did African American women face discrimination within the women's suffrage movement, but we most certainly did not attain the right to vote 95 years ago. She's referring to African American women. Okay, that was white women that got the right to vote 95 years ago. After decades of literacy tests and other disenfranchisement tactics, it was the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that finally allowed African American women to vote somewhat freely. The same Voting Rights Act that in 2014 was gutted by the Supreme Court. So no, 2020 isn't a landmark year for African American women, and cosmetic diversity is nothing but a placebo in the service of white liberal guilt. I don't want Harriet Tubman's face on the $20 bill. I want our people to be free from the chains of institutionalized racism and economic slavery. That's how we honor her. I don't want Rosa Parks' face on the $20 bill. I want African American people to be able to travel from point A to point B without being targeted by discriminatory and violent policing tactics. Discriminatory and violent policing tactics. That's how we honor Rosa Parks. Although I'm sure that women on 20s and its approximately 256,000 voters mean well, the very narrow lens through which they appear to view gender equality and socio-political progress leaves very little room for the lived experiences of African American women throughout America's history and into the present day. In fact, it erases them. And the cost of that erasure is a hell of a lot more than $20. Okay, so this is an article last year that Kirsten West Savali wrote for theroot.com entitled "Why We Should Keep Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks Off the $20 Bill." Why we should keep Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks off the $20 bill. So what do you think about it? Give us a call, 888-669-2281. 888-669-2281 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Okay, now, one of the problems that happens is that when you have your heroes, you have your icons that are co-opted by Europeans, they become sanitized. They become whitewashed. This is what happened. This is what has happened to Dr. King. This is why a lot of us were against Dr. King Day, because see, Dr. Yosef Ben Yakinen said this in one of his lectures. He said, we disgrace Dr. King by going to our oppressor asking for a holiday to celebrate him. He said, if you want to celebrate Dr. King, you go ahead and celebrate him. You don't ask permission from your oppressor to celebrate him. Okay. And then, so when Malcolm X was put on the when a stamp, a U.S. stamp was given to Malcolm X, Malcolm's image was sanitized. Okay. They called him a civil rights leader as opposed to a human rights leader, and they sanitized him to make him more acceptable to Europeans. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you a story about this. We're coming up on the break. I'll tell you this on the other side of the break. It's very, very important. But there was a lot of criticism about the whitewashing campaign of Malcolm X back at that time. It was a few years ago when he was put on the stamp. Okay, and you know, it's problematic when you have certain critical African American leaders who we try to get accepted by the mainstream. Another problem is just like Marcus Garvey. I don't know if Marcus Garvey's on a U.S. stamp. They don't put Marcus Garvey on a U.S. stamp. They're gonna whitewash Marcus Garvey. Okay. All right, we'll be back in a few minutes. I'm going to tell you the story on the other side of the break. You don't want to miss this. You listen to the Michael Imhotep Show right here on the Empowerment Radio Network, where knowledge is power. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, I shared this article. We have it on our Facebook fan page. It's from last year, April 13th, 2015, from Kirsten West Savali. She writes for theroot.com, "Why We Should Keep Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks Off the $20 Bill." I also put it on our Twitter page right now. Also, I just sent out this tweet, and it says discussing this article from K West Savali. Follow her on Twitter at K West Savali, Savali. Okay, why we should keep Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks off the $20 bill. All right, now I pulled up this article here. This is from January 20th, 1999, and this is from Gregory Kane for the Baltimore Sun. I think this is when they maybe first started talking about putting Malcolm X on a $20 on a U.S. stamp, and he says today the U.S. Postal Service officially issues its Malcolm X stamp. You have to figure the X-Man is twirling in his grave. So yeah, this is when they actually issued the stamp. Just who is being honored here? The Malcolm So the name of the article is "Which Malcolm X is on stamp?" Which Malcolm X is on stamp? Okay. So just who is being honored here? The Malcolm who excoriated America for its anti-black racism, who frequently opposed his federal government's policies in third world countries, who was the most powerful black nationalist spokesman since Marcus Garvey, and who even a month before he died continued to wear that label? Or is it the watered-down Malcolm X portrayed by the 1990s media? This is the Malcolm whose life is reduced to a simplistic morality tale. Black man joins racist separatist sect, the Nation of Islam, and preaches that all whites are racist. Black man splits from sect, goes to Mecca, converts to Orthodox Islam, and returns home believing in integration and the brotherhood of all. Now, Malcolm did not believe in integration, okay? But he when he was exposed to Orthodox Islam, he realized that all white people were not devils. But he did not believe in integration. But he felt that we should have full rights here, and he said that separation is a long-term goal, but there are immediate concerns that we have to address right now. Okay, now that's the Malcolm we got from the insipid drive Spike Lee had the nerve to pass off as the X-Man's film biography in 1992. Malcolm X's widow, the late Betty Shabazz, said her husband believed the media had made too much of her husband's evolving views on racial matters. Quote, Malcolm said the white man had a lot of nerve expecting him to change when he, the white man, did not change. Okay, so check out that article. That's from the Baltimore Sun. There's more to it. I just don't have time to get into it. Which Malcolm X is on stamp? That's from January 20th, 1999 from Gregory Kane. Okay, so a few years ago, here's the story I wanted to tell you. A few years ago, I was at the main branch post office on 4th Street here in Detroit. Okay, and I was there, I think maybe shipping out some orders or something. And so this was after, the Malcolm X stamp was issued. And there was a showcase, and it had different plaques that the U.S. Postal Service was selling. And they had plaques. I think there may have been like 3 shelves in this showcase. It was a glass showcase. I think it had 3 shelves in it. So they had different plaques of different branches of the military. They had the Army, and they had some Army men in their uniform, with their assault rifles, like the M16, something like that. And then they had the I think the Air Force, and they showed the men in their uniform. I think they had weapons, and then they had the Marines, okay? And they showed them in the uniform. And I think in the Army and the Marines, they had like African-American men. You had like 2 white men, 1 African-American man. But they had weapons in their hands. They had M16s, okay? And then they had a plaque of Malcolm X. And it had 4 different renderings of some iconic pictures of Malcolm X, okay? And it was like all on one plaque. And they had a rendering of the famous picture of Malcolm when he's looking out of the window and he has an assault rifle in his hand. Now, this is a rendering of it. And they show Malcolm, and he's looking out of the window, and they show his hand, and his hand is cupped like he's holding a rifle, but there's no rifle in his hand. Now, you have in this same showcase, you have these other plaques with African-American men in the military wearing military uniforms carrying assault rifles. Here you have a famous rendering of Malcolm X looking out of the window because people are trying to kill him and he's trying to protect his family. And you feel that he's so threatening, you don't want to show Malcolm with the gun. So what this shows is the whole sanitization process, the sanitizing of Malcolm that took place. And America has always been afraid of African American men with guns that they could not control. See, as long as you're wearing their uniform, they can control you because you take their orders. And then I'm not attacking anybody. I'm not attacking African Americans in the military. I'm trying to show you the whitewashing that has taken place. And this is what I'm afraid will take place with Harriet Tubman. So as long as you're wearing their uniform and protecting white interests, they'll show you with a weapon. But when you are protecting your own family and when you're speaking out against European white supremacy and racism, you become a threat. And even though you are in the picture trying to protect yourself, they don't want to show you with a weapon. This is the hypocrisy here. Okay, now this was at the U.S. Postal Service. Welcome back to the Michael Imhotep Show right here on the Empowerment Radio Network with Knowledge is Power. All right, Al, call back in. We're about to go to the phone lines. Call back in, 888-669-2281. 888-669-2281 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking about Harriet Tubman is going to be on a new $20 bill. Is this a good thing? I don't think it's a good thing at all. There's no offense to Harriet Tubman. She's one of our great sheroes, but understanding European white supremacy and racism and how they whitewash a lot of our heroes and things like this, and dealing with the articles I just laid out, I don't think this is a good thing.